Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Karina Kaplan, and I'm here with Dr. Maxim Khotimchenko, who is an expert in pharmacology. And specifically, we're going to talk with him today about adaptogens. Hi, Dr. Khotimchenko. Thank you so much
Hi, everybody.
for joining us. Can you please tell us a little bit about your background?
For watching us. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and I would like to talk a little bit just about me, as Dr. Karina told us that I'm a pharmacologist. Now I live in San Diego in California, but originally I am from Russia. And for about 20 years, I worked in the very far eastern part of Russia in Vladivostok City, near the Japan, China, and Korea, in this triangular of these countries. And my work was about pharmacological activity of various natural compounds. There are many of them, but just maybe the most interesting part is about the herbal adaptogens or adaptogenic herbs. This is, I guess it's not a major part of my work, but the most interesting, because these herbs possess a lot of very, very interesting and very beneficial effects. And also, talking about myself, I'm a pharmacology professor. I read lectures for students. I'm a pharmacology researcher. I have made a lot of projects in drug discovery and in drug development. So I get that I know a lot about pharmacology, all aspects about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's amazing. You have a lot to talk about. So you mentioned briefly about adaptogens, and that's the reason that that we're actually here today, because I know this is the term that you wouldn't hear normally in the United States. So I'm sure that for a lot of listeners, it's a completely new term. Can you please tell us a little bit about what it is and why they're called adaptogens?
Okay, I don't know why, but adaptogens is actually is not very well known in the United States. And when I came here in the United States, I was really surprised, because in China, in Korea, in Japan, in Russia, these drugs, or it is not actually drugs, but remedies maybe, or these herbs are very well known, and almost everybody use it for health benefits. So what is about adaptogens? Actually, adaptogens, this word means adapt, to get used to something. And adaptogens, they help our body to adapt, to get used to some harmful environmental factors. There's a lot of them. Maybe just freezing temperature, like here in San Diego, for example, we are just freezing us now. Or maybe it may be excessive heat. It may be infectious agents, virus. It may be lack of oxygen due to, for example, high altitude, and so on and so on. These factors, via one way or another, they make some bad effects in our body. Maybe we don't feel it, but when we have one factors affecting our body, another one, and when we have a lot of them, or just a series of them, we may get sick. And we don't even know what the exact reason of it. For example, like viruses, like flu, actually we have immune system, it should work, but somehow it doesn't protect us from viruses. Why? Because it was weakened due to some various factors, or it didn't work properly. So adaptogens, they help to optimize metabolic reactions in the body. They have very complicated mechanism of action. We always hiding them, but they help us to cope with these factors and to feel better in harmful environment, for example. This is a brief description.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. That's very interesting. So can you just maybe give us an example mechanism? I know that we're both scientists, so if it's possible to simplify.
Okay. For example, I know that the most known adaptogen is ginseng, and I guess that everybody knows the term ginseng.
Yes.
But actually, ginseng is not a very potent adaptogen. And I would like to talk as an example about another adaptogen herbs sometimes it's called Siberian ginseng. This is not correct word. Now we can find the real name Eleutherococcus, or in United States they just shorten name Eleuther. So Eleutherococcus or Siberian ginseng, it had been used in China, for example, for 2,000 years, and because it can treat a lot of diseases, as Chinese believed. They use it for bronchitis, heart diseases, rheumatism. They improve general health, restore memory, and so on and so on. Right now, we have obtained scientific confirmation that this is true. Eleutherococcus, it really works for this for treatment of these disorders. But talking about mechanism, how it works, that's a very complicated question. For example, Eleutherococcus contains about 60 different compounds which activity was confirmed in experiments. All of them act a little bit differently. So it's very difficult to say how does it work.
Okay.
So we can also say that, for example, they reduce, for example, such syndrome or symptoms called neuroinflammation, for example. That's always happens when you got any diseases, like, for example, flu. It results that your brain reacts. That's why when you got flu, that thinking is very different. Your memory is not so sharp. So that's the cause of it is neuroinflammation. And we know that some compounds from Eleutherococcus can reduce this syndrome, this phenomenon. So it helps you. But actually, we still don't know exactly how all these compounds work. Okay. Unfortunately, yeah.
Yes. So, but I'm sure someone is working on trying to figure it out and pinpoint the mechanism, right? And your lab as well is involved in some of the research of that kind. So you mentioned Eleutherococcus and ginseng. Can you also name maybe some other adaptogens? Because ginseng, I'm sure a lot of listeners know this plant, but I'm not sure if they knew that it's an adaptogen.
Yeah.
So what about others?
I guess the next one which I should mention is Rhodiola rosea, or sometimes it's called golden root. I know that in United States, this herb is very popular. When we just look at the Google, we can find a lot of rhodiola containing supplements, but all of them, they're recommended for stress relief. And it's just the only one recommendation for this herb, just stress relief, because yes, it was confirmed that rhodiola can protect central nervous systems and can optimize some metabolic reactions in brain. But actually, Rhodiola rosea at first uses adaptogens. Rhodiola rosea, it helps a lot our immune system to be more powerful, to protect us. Also, for example, Rhodiola rosea was used by some, maybe you know that Rhodiola rosea actually derived from Altai mountain, the very, very high mountains. And so local tribes, local folks, people who lived in these mountains, they used Rhodiola rosea because on the high altitude, their concentration of oxygen is much lower. And for them, Rhodiola rosea was a very helpful remedy to cope with this hypoxia, with the lack of oxygen. This is a typical action, a typical effect of adaptogens to to feel good in high altitude with a lack of oxygen. Also, at the same time, Rhodiola rosea was proved to reduce the rate of, for example, flus and colds. So that means it may be due to the stimulation of immune systems. It may be due to some stimulation of other mechanisms of bacterial resistance against bacteria. So the Rhodiola rosea is another one very important adaptogen.
Okay.
And I guess I need to mention third one adaptogen. It's called Schisandra. Sometimes it's called Schisandra or Schisandra. And this adaptogen is a real Chinese herb. I know the Chinese people like it a lot, but in other parts of the world, it is not so well known. And what is very interesting for Schisandra is this is a very potent adaptogen with great toning activity. It can rise blood pressure if it is low. If it is normal, it doesn't rise it. And that's why Schisandra was used, for example, in China for training activity as pre-workout herb, because it just stimulates energy. It makes it works like energy booster maybe.
Okay.
At the same time, it has great adaptogen potential, just very similar to Eleuthero and Rhodiola rosea. So that three adaptogens, I guess, it is the most powerful herbs from Chinese medicine, from Korean medicine, and from eastern part of Russian medicine.
Interesting. Thank you. And I know that you're not only researching these herbs and compounds isolated from these plants, but you're also producing them and as supplements, right? Because
that's right.
And you actually were so kind to give me to try this. And I have to say that I didn't hear much. I didn't know much before trying this, and I was quite skeptical, and but I tried the Eleutherococcus for a couple of months probably, and I have to say that it definitely helped me to withstand all this flu season and respiratory viruses. Like my husband, for example, is still sick with a virus. It's probably been 2 weeks, and you know, I'm fine, as you could hear me. So I do think that it helps me, in addition to my probiotics and favorite prebiotics, of course. But so tell us, please, how can we find these, and what is the main difference between, for example, these supplements and maybe some other supplements that are available on the market?
Okay, let me try from the second part of your question.
Okay.
What the difference, and I would like to say what we think is the benefits of our supplement. First of all, this is a result of our our complicated work with supplements, because first of all, we used only wild herbs, because these herbs were harvested in Russia, in eastern Russian part, where we have a lot of wild plants in the taiga forest. So this is real. This is wild.
And it's indigenous, right? And it's indigenous, so that's where they come from. That's where they belong.
This is indigenous. They belong to this area. Yes, that's right. For example, Eleutherococcus. This is more indigenous for Russian part than for Chinese part, for example. Well, after that, we have developed very complicated technology. This is that allows us to isolate the most powerful compounds from it, because sometimes, as I know, many supplements, they does not contain real extract. This is maybe some kind of parts of the plants, or this is maybe some kind of very simple extract. We have made very complicated technology, just allowed us to isolate all these compounds that I mentioned. We have a lot of them in concentration as high as possible. Actually, at first we needed it to perform biological experiments, because we tested these compounds in rats and mice. Sometimes we from small-scale clinical trials with persons, with people. That's why we needed to isolate the most pure, the purest, and the most powerful extract. After that, we adapted this technology for manufacturing of dietary supplements. Also, we have noted that all these active compounds, the very large organic molecules, and that are not stable in stomach. We have stomach juice, we have acid, we have enzymes, digestive enzymes, and they just affect these compounds and degrade them. That's why when we take just extract or maybe a dry extract in a capsule, it's prone to degradation in stomach and intestine. So that's why we use biopolymer compounds called pectin. Maybe I guess you know this.
Pectin, yes.
A very, very good prebiotic also. So we use pectin polymer for protection because it forms gel in stomach, and this gel just works like an envelope, shielding or protecting organic compounds. And it resulted with that we have got availability or bioavailability of these compounds very high because they were protected. So this is also the difference from other compounds. So this is our technology. We put adaptogens. Also, we use some other herbal extracts of plants, of herbs, very well known by folk medicine in Russia because they contain a lot of flavonoids, antioxidants, vitamins. For example, we use raw hips. It contains a great amount of vitamin C, for example. Okay. And we have so blend of extracts in which each extract, each compound enhance activity of other. It's called potentiation of effects. And also we use a pectin biopolymer for protections with the purpose that the high concentrations of these compounds enter the bloodstream and the efficacy is higher. That's the difference. And all these stages we perform in our partner company located in Russia. After that, we perform all laboratory testing and we ship this root compound into United States. When we get it into the United States port, we have our lovely FDA guys. They test everything, including from bacterial concentration to our compound, our adaptogens compounds concentration. So they test everything, and only after that, we use it to manufacture the final form of dietary supplement. So we have what is good, what I'm proud of, that is twice tested. Yes. Before shipment in Russia and after it got to United States by FDA.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you actually researched your own formula. You've done so many experiments with different animals and different experiments with human, like clinical trials. So if someone, it's like with probiotics, there are a lot of probiotics right there on the market, but only few of them are actually clinically tested and clinically have been shown to benefit health. And that's what I consider, solid, scientifically proven supplement. And that's exactly what you're doing as well. And that's why I was really excited to meet you and talk about your adaptogens specifically. Because also, as you mentioned, you get them from a wild nature, from the indigenous, and that is extremely important. And for me, as a biologist, because the same plant grown in different locations will have completely different properties. And like ginseng, grown somewhere in wild and mountains, has really those potentials that we all know about, but if it's grown somewhere in the backyard or in some even other country, it may completely be different and have different properties. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Have you actually maybe tested some of these plants that were taken from a different location, for example, to see if they have the same properties?
Well, we didn't test it, the pharmacological activity. We didn't test the effects, but what we tested, we just measured the concentration of active compounds, and this is very different. And we just tested, for example, Rhodiola rosea from Elte, like we use, and we also tested Rhodiola rosea. I don't remember exactly, but from some Asian part. And the concentration of rosavine is, I don't remember exactly, maybe 5 times or 6 times different. The concentration of indigenous rhodiola, of rosavine of indigenous rhodiola, is much higher. And also we have tested, as you mentioned, ginseng. We had just a little bit of wild ginseng. It's really expensive, so we just had it just for testing. For testing, we had so-called cultivated ginseng. So it was like farm growth for a small stock, and then planted into the forest, but into the indigenous forest. And yes, it is. We have noted a difference. It was not so dramatic. It was maybe about maybe 40%, maybe 50%. That was the difference, but not so dramatic. But also we have tested some supplements we bought in drugstore that were from Canada, from United States. I remember, it's not good for me just to mention country, but we tested the final products, and the difference was so high, maybe 1 point, 2 points, so a lot of difference. But we tested just compounds which activity was experimentally proved. Not all of them, because they have a lot of them.
Okay, I can see it. So, just, I know you talked a little bit about Eleutherococcus and Rhodiola and Schisandra, but just very briefly, like in one sentence, what would you use Eleutherococcus for?
Eleutherococcus is very good for long-term use as a prevention of cold and flu, because the most important effect of Eleutherococcus is stimulation of immune system, all components of immune system.
Okay, great, thank you. And Rhodiola rosea?
Rhodiola rosea, I don't want to break some stereotypes. Yes, stress relief is very good for Rhodiola rosea. It's a very complicated mechanism, and maybe it will not be a short sentence, maybe 2 short sentences. I would like to.
The sound.
Sorry?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Stress relief doesn't mean you are calm, that you are sedated. No, stress relief means that you are not bothered about some kind of thing, some dangerous, some things you don't want to think about it. So actually, after you use Rhodiola rosea, you should be brave, you should be active. So you are not going to be sedated. That's about Rhodiola rosea. And also, yes, it has very good potential, for example, for high altitude, for hypoxia. So if you have some, not only if you live in mountains, but if you have some problem with respiratory system, Rhodiola rosea is better.
That's very interesting. And what about the Schisandra chinensis?
Schisandra is very good. I mentioned it as a pre-workout. If you want to be energized, if you want to be motivated to work, to study, to do something, then Schisandra is better. For example, for me, Schisandra is the best. I love it. I don't use Eleutherococcus and Rhodiola. For me, I prefer Schisandra. But I know that my family hates me because I'm very brave in the morning. I like to sing songs, to speak loudly, because I want to do something, and I know that I follow this effort. When I take Schisandra, it works for me. So in the morning pre-workout, that's good.
Okay, so it kind of brings your energy level up.
Yes.
Right.
For me, yes. For me, and I heard a lot of reviews from other people. They also felt just the same.
Okay, amazing. And so, are there any contradictions Are there any side effects from these supplements?
Okay. As we talk about herbal and we talk about herbs, we also have to remember about allergy, because all remedies, all drugs, all supplements containing herbal parts, they contain a lot of different compounds. So if you have many compounds, the likelihood of allergy becomes higher. So you must remember about it. And also, there is no actual contraindications for these supplements, because it's very interesting thing about them, that if you use it in higher concentration, the effects becomes lower, because due to they have a lot of compounds active inside, they affect various systems. But some of them are more sensitive, some of them are less sensitive. And when the dose becomes higher, all of the systems are involved in reactions and the effects become slower. So that's why there is no actual contraindication, except maybe Schisandra. Schisandra is not recommended everywhere for person with high blood pressure.
Okay.
I mentioned to you that in the morning it's very good, but in our body, blood pressure is highest in the morning. So it is not good if we stimulate it more. That's the only one indication. And also about pregnancy. Maybe I should mention about it, because despite a lot of experiments performed, we still don't know how herbal compounds would affect a fetus, a future child. But as a pharmacologist, I always make my recommendations that if you are sick, you have to use drugs. You have to use pharmaceuticals. They are safe and they help you. But talking about pregnant women, I always say avoid drug usage. Just the same about herbal compounds, because maybe it doesn't affect a fetus, but we will make the likelihood of future allergy higher, for example. And we don't know because nobody tested it, nobody investigated it.
Yes, I agree. That makes sense. Perfect. So what about children? We talked about pregnant women, but what about children? Is it safe to use with children? What do you think?
I think this is safe for use. You can lower the dose. For example, you can, if you want to be as safe as possible, you can just open the capsules, dilute the powder in the water solutions, and drink, for example, half of it. Okay. So it's going to be half of capsule. But actually, I worked in Russian systems and Russian healthcare service. They very often recommend adaptogens like Eleutherococcus for children, for strengthening of immune systems. And this is safe and it works.
And you've seen that it worked? Okay.
Yeah, it worked. I've seen the results of some clinical studies in preschool organizations, in
preschool, okay.
In preschools, yeah. In preschools, and if we compare just two preschools, one of them with kids who was taking Eleutherococcus and another was used as a placebo, we can see the differences. How many kids got sick in one and another. So we saw the effect. I saw the studies.
Okay, great. So I know that you have 2 children, right?
Yes, I have.
Are they taking?
When we were in Russia, when we lived in Russia, because they came to the United States with me. When we lived in Russia, yes, we use it. But here, where the climate is much better, and my kids, I don't know, but they're pretty strong. They don't get sick.
Yeah. Well, the weather in San Diego is pretty good.
Yeah, the weather is pretty good. But when we were in Russia, yes, we use it. And my city I was born in is very specific because it's very close to China and to Chinese medicines. And originally, the term adaptogens was invented in Vladivostok. It was in 1969. And that's why in my city, everybody, any person knows what is adaptogens, what is Eleutherococcus or Schisandra. You can buy it in any market. You can buy berry, you can buy seed, you can buy plants, roots, everything you want.
Interesting.
Everybody knows it. And for the people of my city, this is it's just a habit. They always, when it is fall, it's getting colder, they take some of adaptogen. That's a normal thing.
That's also probably the only way to survive that cold, those cold temperatures in the winter.
I don't think about survival, but it helps.
It
helps a lot, yes.
Okay. So I know there was another one question from someone who I was sharing adaptogens to, and they were asking, so is it safe to take, for example, several, because they have different properties, all these 3 adaptogens. Is it safe to take 2 or 3 of them at the time?
This is safe.
Yeah.
If you want a brief answer, this is safe. But for example, the main property of all adaptogens, all of them stimulate immune systems, all of them makes our body more resistant to harmful factors. And if we take 3 of them, it doesn't increase these effects.
Okay.
So there is no reason to do it. But for example, if you want rhodiola like a stress relief, and then you want Schisandra like a pre-workout, well, that's possible. This is safe. If you feel good, okay, why not?
Perfect. So what is the safe dosage? I know that you told me to take 2 capsules of Eleutherococcus, so I'm taking 1 in the morning and that 1 in the evening. Is the same true for others? You just need 2 tablets a day?
Yes. You need 1 or 2 tablets or capsules, depending on how you feel it. And also, if you take, for example, 5 or 10, nothing happens. Nothing dangerous.
Nothing dangerous.
Nothing dangerous about it. Maybe the effects would not be higher, or it may become lower, because as I told, all alternative systems will be involved into the pharmacological reactions, so the effect maybe become lower, but it is safe.
And also another question is, how how some drugs or supplements have to be taken for a certain period of time and then stopped, although it depends on what kind of supplements we're talking about. Well, what do you think about adaptogens? Do you need to, because you have 90 or 100 capsules here, which is enough, would be for almost 3 months if you're taking 1 capsule a day. So would you just need to continue using it, or can you do a break?
Yeah, I would recommend to make a break.
Okay.
Not because this is dangerous, but because our body always thinks that every compound that is getting into our body from outside is an alien, is a dangerous substance, and our body tries to protect from it. So that's why the reactions, the effects become lower and lower and lower as we continue to use. So just for prevention of this effect, it is better to make some break. For example, you use it for 1 month, and then you make 1 week break, then for another month, and then 1 week break. Also, I don't think this is reasonable to take it, for example, for a whole summer. Summer is a good season. It's warm season. So it may be 1 month and 2 or 3 weeks break. Week breaks would be good. Also, it is safe if you're going to use it infinitely with no breaks. It's safe, but if you want to make the effects higher, then I would recommend to make some breaks.
Okay, well, good to know. I didn't even think about that. And so thank you so much for all this useful information. And the last question, I guess, especially for new people who have never heard about adaptogens, if there was one adaptogen which one would you recommend if they can only buy one, for example, to try? Which one should they go for?
I would recommend Eleutherococcus. Eleutherococcus is the most typical adaptogen. It is very well studied. and at the same time, it doesn't have some very rough effects like, for example, Schisandra have. It is very mild. But also, I would like to say that if you're a healthy person and you don't have some diseases or something, you barely feel actually the effect of it. For example, if you don't have a headache, so you don't feel the aspirin effect. But also, adaptogen is a herbs or drugs for prevention.
Okay.
So if you, for example, if you're going to snow, to mountains, to have some skiing and so on, and if you start taking adaptogens 3 hours before departure, it doesn't make sense. You have to start it at least 1 week before it.
Okay. So you have to prepare, build this immunity.
Yes, immune system needs time to manufacture antibodies, manufacture lymphocytes. Yes, it needs time. Okay.
Well, good to know. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And if people have questions, they can comment, and hopefully you can.
I'll try to answer.
You can answer those. And the most important question: where can we buy? Where can we buy these?
The simplest way to buy it through Amazon.
Amazon. Yes.
Yes.
And yes, and you sent me the links for the products with the 10% discount.
Yes.
So by attached to the video, our listeners can take advantage of this discount too. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, very welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate again your time, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much.